July 25, 1944, 09:38 hours, near Saint-Lô, Normandy. The sky is already breaking apart. You can feel it before you hear it, a low vibration rolling through the hedgerows, rattling canteens, shaking loose dirt from the roots of apple trees. Then the sound arrives, a distant thunder that grows into a roar, hundreds of engines, thousands of tons of explosives hanging beneath silver wings. American bombers fill the horizon. On the ground, German infantry press themselves into foxholes carved into Normandy's hard clay. Their fingers dig into damp earth, helmets pulled low, mouths open, waiting for the shockwave. Somewhere, an officer is shouting orders no one can hear anymore. Then the first bombs fall. The earth convulses, fields vanish, roads disappear. The hedgerows, those ancient green walls that have protected German positions for weeks, are ripped apart in geysers of flame and steel. A Panzer IV is flipped onto its side like a child's toy. Trucks burn. Radios go silent. Command wires are severed in 1,000 places at once. Operation Cobra has begun. And at the far edge of the shattered battlefield, a man in polished riding boots stands beside his tank and watches the sky burn. General George S. Patton. He adjusts his helmet, squints into the smoke, and smiles. Because this is the moment he has been waiting for. 48 hours earlier, 60 miles east, inside a stone command building near La Roche-Guyon, Field Marshal Günther von Kluge had laughed. The room smelled of cigarette smoke and stale coffee. Maps covered the walls, red and blue arrows tangled across Normandy like a spider's web. Officers leaned over a long wooden table cluttered with binoculars, field reports, and half-empty cups. An intelligence officer had just finished his briefing. American Third Army is now operational under General Patton, he said. Elements assembling west of Saint-Lô. Von Kluge didn't even look up. Patton. The name carried a reputation, loud, theatrical, obsessed with speeches and medals. The German high command knew him as the general who slapped soldiers in Sicily, the one who strutted like a cowboy in front of cameras, the one who played at war like it was a stage performance. The Americans have given him a new army, von Kluge muttered. Let him parade it, it changes nothing. A few officers smiled. The Normandy front had held for 7 brutal weeks. Every Allied attack had bled against the hedgerows. British armor stalled near Caen. American infantry chewed to pieces in the bocage. The Allies had air power, yes, but on the ground, Germany still controlled the killing fields. And now they were supposed to fear Patton. The so-called Third Army is untested, one staff officer added, rushed into existence, poorly coordinated. Von Kluge finally looked up. Then it will break like the others, he said. Let the cowboy charge, we will shoot his horse from under him. More laughter. Back near Saint-Lô, the bombing ends as suddenly as it began. Silence hangs for 3 seconds. Then the artillery opens. American guns pound the shattered German line. Smoke rolls across the fields, and from the tree lines engines ignite. Hundreds of them. Sherman tanks surge forward, their tracks chewing through broken hedgerows and craters still steaming from the bombardment. Infantry follow close behind, rifles raised, boots sinking into churned earth. This is not another probing attack. This is a breakout. And behind the spearhead, behind the armored columns and mechanized infantry, sits the real weapon. Patton's Third Army. For weeks it has waited, fueled, repaired, stocked with ammunition and rations, entire divisions idling behind the front like a coiled spring. Now the spring is released. Patton climbs into his command jeep. The driver slams the door. The engine revs. Let's go hunting, Patton says. German defensive lines disintegrate within hours. Units that survived the bombing are cut off, their radios dead, their roads cratered. Orders come too late or not at all. Officers ride motorcycles through smoke-filled villages searching for headquarters that no longer exist. By nightfall, American armor is already pushing south. By morning, they are through the breach. Patton moves fast, relentlessly fast. He doesn't pause to consolidate, doesn't wait for perfect supply lines. He pushes his divisions through every gap the bombers and artillery have torn open. The Third Army pours through the shattered front like water through a broken dam. The Germans try to regroup. They throw infantry battalions into blocking positions. They rush panzer divisions west. They order counterattacks that arrive piecemeal and die under American fighter-bombers before they even reach the battlefield. Patton doesn't fight set-piece battles. He bypasses, encircles, cuts roads, severs rail lines, and drives on. Every hour his columns move deeper. Every hour German rear areas, once considered safe, turn into battlefields. At La Roche-Guyon, the laughter has stopped. Reports arrive faster than they can be read. American armor at Coutances. American infantry crossing the Saloon River. American tanks pushing toward Avranches. Avranches. The name hits the room like a gunshot. Avranches is the gateway to Brittany, the hinge between Normandy and open country. If the Americans take it, they can turn west into the ports or east into the German rear. Von Kluge stands over the map now, jaw tight. "Where are our reserves?" he snaps. "Already engaged," an officer answers. "Panzer Lehr is shattered. 2nd SS Panzer is tied down near Caen. 116th Panzer is still moving from the east." "Then move them faster." "They are moving as fast as the roads allow, Herr Feldmarschall. The Americans control the air." Another officer steps forward. Reports from forward units say Patton himself is leading the advance. Von Kluge exhales through his nose. The Cowboy. On July 30th, Patton's tanks reach Avranches. They don't stop. They roll straight through. Bridges fall intact into American hands. German rear guards are brushed aside. Entire supply depots are captured before their guards even know a battle is coming. For the first time since the landings, the Allies are no longer fighting through hedgerows. They are racing across open country. Patton stands on a hill overlooking the town and watches his columns fan out like spokes on a wheel. West toward Brest, south toward Reims, east toward Le Mans. He turns to one of his officers. "They tried to bottle us up in Normandy," he says. "Now we're going to cork them instead." Back at German headquarters, the final report arrives just after midnight. Avranches has fallen, American armor advancing in multiple directions, entire sectors collapsing. No one laughs. Von Kluge stares at the map in silence. Because the Cowboy army hasn't broken. It has broken through. And now it is behind them. The noose is beginning to tighten. And somewhere in the darkness of western France, Patton's tanks are already racing toward their next objective, an objective that will turn German retreat into catastrophe. The trap is forming, and the Germans are running straight into it. The first light of July 31st creeps across the shattered streets of Avranches. Smoke still curls from overturned German trucks, and the acrid smell of burning fuel hangs in the air. You can almost hear the city holding its breath. Tanks rumble through the cobblestones, tracks clanging against stone, while infantry squads fan out behind them, rifles sweeping alleyways, eyes darting for the slightest movement. Patton rides at the front in his open-top Jeep, map case in hand, eyes scanning. The roar of engines drowns out almost everything else. This is no parade. This is a race. Every second counts. Every delay allows the Germans a chance to regroup. But Patton doesn't pause. He doesn't hesitate. He pushes forward faster than anyone believes possible. Behind him, the Third Army's divisions stretch like an iron snake through the countryside. Sherman tanks, M4A3 variants gleaming in the sun, push west and south, cutting off roads and bridges that could allow German retreats. Reconnaissance jeeps dart through villages, reporting pockets of resistance. Artillery units follow close behind, firing with lethal precision, shattering any remaining fortifications. It's methodical chaos, terrifying, unstoppable, inevitable. Inside German headquarters, panic replaces laughter. Officers flip through reports with shaking hands. Panzer divisions that were supposed to stabilize the front are miles behind. Communication lines are dead or jammed. Entire battalions are being surrounded and annihilated without warning. Von Kluge's fingers drum nervously against the map table. He had mocked Patton's Cowboy army just days before. Now that army is a steel flood, swallowing everything in its path. Von Kluge barks orders. Form a blocking line at Pontorson. Halt them at Mortain. But it's too late. Every movement is anticipated. American reconnaissance knows the terrain better. Patton's columns adapt faster than they can respond. The Germans are reacting, not acting, always a step behind. Every attempt to reinforce one flank leaves another exposed. It is as if Patton can see the entire battlefield at once. By midday, the Third Army encircles the outskirts of Avranches. German soldiers trapped in pockets try to fight their way out, but the American forces are relentless. Sherman tanks blast through barricades. Infantry squads move in from multiple directions, cutting off escape routes. Even veteran panzer crews find themselves hemmed in by terrain they had always considered defensible. Hedgerows that once favored them are now deadly traps. Every maneuver they make, Patton anticipates and counters. One colonel later recalls the moment. We thought we could stop him at the river. Then the next day, his tanks were behind us. We didn't even see them coming. That's the brilliance of the operation. Patton doesn't merely attack, he envelops, encircles, and annihilates. Within hours, whole German corps are cut off, their supplies lost, morale shattered. And all the while Patton moves forward, faster, relentlessly, unyielding. Even the Luftwaffe can't help. Allied air superiority keeps the skies filled with P-47 Thunderbolts and P-51 Mustangs. German ground forces can't maneuver in safety. Supply columns are strafed. Retreating troops are bombarded from above. Panic spreads like wildfire through the German ranks. Messages of surrender and retreat multiply, but nowhere is there a plan to stop the American advance. By evening, Avranches is completely under Allied control. Sherman tanks line the streets, infantry patrols move in synchronized waves, and Patton staff officers set up command posts in commandeered buildings. A victory, yes, but only the beginning. The breakout has created chaos in the German rear, and the Third Army is already looking beyond the city. Von Kluge stares at the reports again. A cold sweat runs down his temple. Every officer in the room senses the same realization. The front is gone. Patton is not just ahead of them, he is everywhere. The cowboy they mocked has turned the Normandy bocage into a hunting ground, and now the hunter is closing in. The Germans know it, but do they know how far the noose will tighten? Patton watches the sun dip below the horizon, his jeep silhouetted against the smoke and flames of Avranches. He doesn't celebrate. He doesn't pause. There is another town to the west, another road to cut, another pocket to seal. For him, victory is measured not in applause but in momentum. And momentum is unstoppable. A chilling thought begins to creep through the German command. If Patton reaches the roads to Brittany and beyond, entire German formations will be trapped, cut off from reinforcements, unable to retreat. They can either fight to the last man or vanish. The Third Army has done more than break through. It has changed the battlefield itself. And von Kluge knows the most terrifying part. He is powerless to stop it. Night falls over western Normandy, and the shattered countryside is eerily quiet except for the occasional rumble of tanks and the distant crackle of artillery fire. You can almost hear the nervous whispers of German officers behind closed doors. the ones scrambling to figure out what went so catastrophically wrong. The roads they once relied on are clogged with retreating units. Supplies meant to stabilize the front are abandoned in ditches, set ablaze by panicked crews who had no orders and nowhere to run. Patton doesn't rest. At 02:00 hours, he's already on the move. His staff reports that armored columns are to converge on the town of St. James, creating a pincer movement that will isolate the Germans in the west. Reconnaissance reports confirm what everyone suspects. German formations are scattering, abandoning defensive positions as if the earth itself has turned against them. From inside the German command bunker, Field Marshal von Kluge flips through the latest dispatches with trembling hands. One message reads, American tanks reported at Pontorson, infantry entering Avranches, no resistance left. Von Kluge slams the table with his fist. How is this possible? He roars. Our lines were secure. Patton's army. He moves as though the hedgerows and rivers don't exist. The officers around him shrink back. Silence falls. Then one whispers almost too quietly to be heard. The Third Army, they are surrounding us. A collective shiver runs through the room. The laughter that had greeted Patton's reputation days before has evaporated entirely. What they had mocked as a cowboy army is now a weapon, precise, fast, and lethal. Meanwhile, on the ground, the Americans execute the encirclement with ruthless efficiency. Sherman tanks cut across fields that were supposed to be German rear areas. Infantry units fan out, cutting off the roads to Avranches. Engineers blow bridges at critical choke points. Supply trucks and armored personnel carriers are captured or destroyed, leaving the Germans isolated. Every step the Third Army takes is coordinated, a combination of Patton's relentless drive and a network of staff officers relaying intelligence with near-perfect timing. For the soldiers on the ground, it feels as though the earth itself is pushing them forward. Hills and rivers no longer slow them. Towns and villages become stepping stones, not obstacles. By dawn, the encirclement is complete. Entire German corps are trapped between the advancing columns of the Third Army and the destroyed roads leading back to the front. Panic sets in among the ranks. Officers shout orders that cannot be carried out. Soldiers attempt desperate, last-minute retreats only to run headlong into armored Shermans waiting like predators. Inside Avranches, Patton stands on a low ridge overlooking the city. The glow of fires illuminates the ruins and the advancing columns of tanks. He studies the map, gestures to his aides, and points to the west. Push forward, he says simply, no mercy for hesitation. It's the hallmark of the man, audacious, relentless, and always 3 steps ahead of anyone who tries to catch him. To the men under his command, he is more than a general. He is a force of nature, a storm that refuses to be slowed. And to the Germans, he is a nightmare they cannot wake from. Von Kluge's headquarters is chaos. Reports come in faster than they can be read. Panzer divisions are isolated. Supply lines cut. Infantry trapped. Communication lines jammed by relentless Allied airstrikes. Every map they look at confirms the same terrifying truth. Patton has them surrounded. One officer finally whispers, almost too quietly to believe. He's behind us, isn't he? Von Kluge closes his eyes for a moment. He had mocked Patton just days ago. Now the laughter has died, replaced by dread. The cowboy who strutted across Sicily, who slapped soldiers and made headlines, has become a surgical instrument of war, cutting through the heart of Normandy with unrelenting precision. The trap is set, and the Germans are inside it. Across the countryside, American units press the advantage. There is no pause, no hesitation. Every hour that passes tightens the encirclement. By nightfall, entire German divisions are cut off, their retreat routes obliterated. Fires dot the horizon, and the crackle of radio transmissions is drowned out by the roar of engines and the relentless pounding of artillery. Patton watches it all unfold with a detached satisfaction. Victory is no longer a hope. It is a reality taking shape beneath his eyes. The Third Army is not just advancing. It is reshaping the battlefield, turning the German rear into a cage from which there is no escape. And as dawn breaks over Avranches once more, the Germans realize a terrifying truth. They are trapped. Patton's cowboy army has become a steel noose, and tightening it is only the beginning. August 1st, 1944. Dawn. The roads around Avranches are littered with abandoned vehicles, burning trucks, and overturned artillery pieces. Smoke hangs thick in the early morning light, curling into the sky like a signal of doom. You can almost hear the murmurs of soldiers realizing too late that they are cut off. Panzer crews peer through shattered windshields, guns raised, but nowhere to aim, nowhere to run. The Third Army has transformed the countryside into a cage, and the Germans are inside it. Patton's tanks move like clockwork, each unit covering the flanks of the others, pushing deeper into Brittany and sealing every avenue of escape. Recon teams dart alongside roads, reporting every isolated German group. Infantry sweeps through villages, corralling soldiers who had hoped to retreat into the forests. Every action is calculated, efficient, relentless. The cowboy army isn't wild, it's precise, unstoppable. Inside German command, von Kluge can barely recognize the front he once controlled. Reports arrive constantly, each one worse than the last. Entire battalions captured, supply lines destroyed, key crossroads occupied by Patton's tanks. Officers look at maps like they've grown teeth, the arrows of red and blue lines now resembling cages closing on their positions. There is no plan left that can save them. Panicked orders are sent to regroup in Morton to block Patton's path, but the Third Army anticipates them. By mid-morning, American reconnaissance spots German units attempting to retreat east. Tanks intercept them, firing into the sides of convoys. Artillery shells rain down on roads they hoped were clear. Soldiers are trapped in villages, forced to surrender. It is methodical, surgical, devastating. Even veterans of Normandy are stunned. One colonel later recounts, "We had faced the Americans before, but never like this. They moved faster than roads, faster than maps, faster than reason. Patton's army was everywhere at once. We were ghosts in a storm we couldn't see coming." Meanwhile, Patton remains ahead of it all. He doesn't linger in Avranches. He pushes south and west, knowing that speed is his deadliest weapon. The Third Army fans out like a net, cutting off German escape routes toward Rents, St. Malo, and the coast. Each captured town becomes a node in the trap, each secured road a barrier preventing German movement. Supplies, reinforcements, and communication lines, all that could have helped the Germans survive, are in Patton's hands. By evening, entire German divisions that once seemed invincible are neutralized, either surrendered, destroyed, or fleeing into the wilds with no cohesion. The cowboy army has become more than a nickname. It is a reputation solidified in steel, smoke, and the shattered morale of an enemy that once laughed at it. Back at German headquarters, von Kluge faces the unthinkable. The reports no longer come in waves, they flood in. Entire formations are gone, villages are occupied, roads are choked with prisoners and destroyed vehicles. The laughter once mocking is replaced by a silence so heavy it feels suffocating. One officer finally dares to speak. "It's over, Herr Feldmarschall. Normandy is lost. Patton, he's broken through everything. Entire corps are trapped." Von Kluge stares at the maps in front of him. Lines of red and blue, arrows and symbols, they are no longer useful. They are proof of disaster. Proof that a general once dismissed as theatrical, reckless, even foolish, has changed the course of the battle with speed, audacity, and sheer relentless momentum. Outside, the sounds of the Third Army advance continue. Tanks roaring through craters, infantry shouting, artillery hammering distant roads. It's the heartbeat of a machine that cannot be stopped. A force of nature that has turned German overconfidence into a deadly trap. And in Avranches, Patton watches it all unfold with that trademark calm. No celebrations, no speeches, just the knowledge that momentum is now his ally and the Germans' enemy. The Third Army has not just broken the German lines, it has shattered their ability to respond. The rear is gone. The front is meaningless. Every decision they make now is reactive, every movement predictable. Patton's Cowboy Army has delivered the ultimate lesson. Mockery can turn to annihilation in a matter of hours, and the nightmare for Germany has only just begun. August 2, 1944. Afternoon. The countryside west of Avranches is a patchwork of smoke, mud, and overturned vehicles. Roads that were once the lifelines of German supply convoys are now blocked by abandoned tanks, burned-out trucks, and piles of captured weapons. You can almost hear the murmurs of fear spreading from one unit to the next. The Third Army is everywhere, and escape is impossible. Patton rides at the forefront in his jeep, flanked by armored columns. His eyes scan the horizon, catching glimmers of movement, German stragglers attempting to slip past the encirclement, only to be caught by advancing infantry or tanks hidden behind the ridges. The speed, the precision, the audacity of the advance is staggering. For the men under his command, it is exhilarating. For the Germans, it is terrifying. Inside German headquarters, Field Marshal von Kluge is a man undone. Officers bring report after report. Entire battalions surrendered, roads and rail lines cut, towns overrun. The laughter that once greeted Patton's reputation is gone. It has been replaced by disbelief and panic. The man they dismissed as a showman has outmaneuvered them at every turn. One general whispers, almost to himself. He moves faster than thought, faster than planning, he's everywhere at once. Von Kluge doesn't respond. He stares at the maps. Each arrow, each line is a nail in the coffin of his strategy. Every attempt to regroup is anticipated. Every counterattack is swallowed. The Third Army is no longer an army, it is a force of inevitability. Meanwhile, Patton's columns fan out from Avranches like spokes on a wheel. Towns that were thought secure fall in hours. Supply depots vanish into American hands. Roads become traps for retreating Germans. And always, Patton drives forward. He doesn't wait for perfect conditions or pause for celebration. Momentum is everything, and he has it in spades. By the end of the day, the Third Army has encircled multiple German formations, cutting off their retreat to Brittany and western France. Soldiers surrender in droves. Tanks are abandoned. Artillery pieces are captured or destroyed. Patton's audacity has transformed a chaotic front into a meticulously executed encirclement. News of the advance begins to trickle back to other Allied commanders. Eisenhower reads reports with a mix of awe and disbelief. Montgomery, too, recognizes the scale of what Patton has accomplished. Newspapers and radio broadcasts will later call it the Avranches breakthrough. But on the ground, it was something more primal, a demonstration of speed, courage, and relentless aggression that redefined the campaign in Normandy. Even today, historians marvel at how Patton took what von Kluge had mocked as a reckless, cowboy army and turned it into a machine of precision and terror. The Third Army didn't just win battles, it reshaped the battlefield itself, turning German confidence into panic and retreat into annihilation. Patton's men call him many things, fearless, unflinching, sometimes insane, but in Avranches he became legend. The German high command called him the man who moves faster than thought. And for anyone caught in the path of his advance, there was no mercy, no pause, no escape. Just the relentless push of tanks, the roar of artillery, the precision of a mind that refused to stop. The Cowboy Army had arrived, and it had changed the course of Normandy forever. And